Oh hey, I didn't see you guys there. Welcome to our episode on Star Wars. I was surprised I couldn't see you with these glasses. I like to surprise these guys by not telling them when I'm going to start recording, and it's going swimmingly. So we're going to talk about pre-Disney Star Wars compared to post-Disney Star Wars and how we feel about it. Mark, as you can see, is ready for the occasion. This episode,
in the cockpit.
Yeah, he's actually a trained pilot. This episode's actually going to go out before the other one we recorded with you, so this is your introduction again. Yeah, Mark's just our friend who knows a lot about nerd stuff. I actually don't have a Star Wars shirt. I wanted to wear one, but I couldn't find any. So.
Well, this is actually a size small, so that's why I have to put the camera up a little bit. It's pretty tight down below.
Oh, you don't want to show off your abs?
There's no abs.
Oh no.
I had one. The one that you gave me, Mark. It was the Chewbacca. I don't know where it is.
Oh my god.
We're just all dysfunctional, and this is a fail.
Yeah, this is going to be a bit of an unhinged episode. I essentially just woke up. Anna just came back from work. Mark's ready. So there's a bit of a difference here.
We're all different levels.
Yeah, different levels of expertise. But first thing I want to ask you guys is kind of what is your history with Star Wars? What is your favorite Star Wars film? What kind of got you into it? I guess we can start with Anna.
So when I was a child and Star Wars came out, I was not alive. And then
when you were a child, when you were not alive.
Not when it came out, but eventually when it moved on to DVDs, not just Star Wars but Disney also, my parents decided to get me those DVDs, but not in English. They got it for me in Chinese, so everything I ever watched were in Chinese Mandarin. So Darth Vader was speaking to me in Mandarin when he said
Wait.
Father, and I was like, whoa.
What about Chewbacca?
Chewbacca's not the same though.
Oh, they didn't get a Chinese dub actor for Chewbacca?
No, they didn't.
Oh, C-3PO. I would like to hear that. I should actually look that up.
Oh yeah, he still sounds robotic though, from what I remember. But it's just Mandarin.
Yeah. So have you heard the English version since then?
I rewatched both original and the prequel. I think when I was in college is when I rewatched it.
Oh, okay. So do you have a favorite?
I think my favorite might be either episode 6 or 5.
Do you know the name of it?
No, I don't. That's why I'm saying the numbers instead.
Is it the Empire Strikes Back or is it Return of the Jedi?
Oh, I think it's Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, with the snow planet.
Good answer.
Yeah.
All right, that's a pretty solid answer. We would have to fight if you chose Return of the Jedi, because one of my notes that we have on our planning sheet is how I actually really don't like Return of the Jedi.
And I'm very curious to hear this.
So yeah, that's not one of my favorites. I mean, I could go into it now.
Wait, talk about how you started, what's your favorite, and then talk about why you hate the other one.
Oh, okay. So I started with the VHS of the English edition of of the originals, and I guess unfortunately they were probably one of the second or third re-release. They came in a special Darth Vader little foil thing that went over it, so it was slightly different than I guess what people saw in the theaters, but I was a kid, I didn't know any better, so I saw the first 3 movies habitually growing up and enjoyed them a lot. And then I was fortunate enough to see the prequel movies and the sequel movies as well in the theaters. The prequels when I was a small kid, and then the sequels when I was a big adult. So and as far as the supplementary material, I haven't seen Clone Wars, but I've heard that I would like it. Me and Anna just finished Andor, except I finished it for real and Anna finished it for fake.
Hey!
Close enough. Got to episode 11 of 12.
Literally just got the TLDR before we started recording.
Yeah, the 5-second summary.
Just the last episode, it's fine.
Yeah, and we'll definitely talk about that because we have thoughts. But yeah, just just growing up as a kid, it was like all my friends were really into Star Wars. Like a lot of my friends have like the lightsabers from Disney. I actually went to Disney this year and saw the Star Wars like part of the park, and it's crazy. It's really good. I'd recommend that. And my favorite is usually I say Revenge of the Sith, which is the third one, which is the last of the prequels. But sometimes, depending on my mood, I will choose A New Hope, which is the fourth one, the OG. So going back to why I don't like Return of the Jedi, it feels like, how would you feel if you had a burger and the burger was missing?
What?
Like, it has all the good toppings, right? The bun, the top bun and the bottom bun are immaculate. The lettuce, crispy. But the middle, the middle's not good. It's bad. There's no middle. Would you still enjoy that burger?
So it's a veggie sandwich.
It's a veggie sandwich, or like the burger's just not very good. That's kind of how I felt about Return of the Jedi, where the beginning of the movie was interesting. Jabba's palace was fun. Since I watched it as a child, I really they added the fucking song and dance number in the lounge with like the CG guy like screaming like "Wah!" And as a child, I really liked that because it was stupid. But yeah, and then the ending obviously is like some of the best things that Star Wars has done, like the final fight between Luke and Vader, overthrowing the Emperor. Very good stuff. But everything to do with Han and Leia in the middle, hanging out with the Ewoks, the little bear creatures, it felt like a filler episode of an anime. It did not feel like it belonged in the conclusive movie of this epic trilogy that everybody loves. And for me, the middle of a movie is actually, I think, more important than most people have it, because that's the meat of the movie. So since it had a really good beginning and end, but not a good middle, I can't really consider it a good movie as a whole.
Very interesting take.
Thank you. I mean, how do you guys, how do you guys feel about it, since we're on the topic?
For just Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, just Return of the Jedi. We'll go into the further discussion later.
For me, I still thought it was pretty solid. I mean, again, it's supposed to be a closing to what was originally supposed to be just the regular trilogy. Like, nothing else was supposed to come after that, because at that time, George Lucas was like, okay, we need a closing, we need to have this big battle between Luke and his father, and then trying to find a way that the rebellion can continue to attack, when they went, like you said, they met with the Ewoks and they're all like trying to prepare for the last battle. But I thought it was still pretty solid. I mean, again, it's a matter of the closing on what we talked about previously about the whole hero's journey, like what Luke went through his battle, but he went through all this different cycle, learning about his father, the real identity, and now facing, a very hard decision, because now he's like the savior, and he has to help, because he knows that what the Empire is doing is wrong. So he has to find a way and defeat Darth Vader, and he knows that he sees something in him, that he was not always this bad. And in that scene where he was fighting him, and you saw it with Palpatine, like Palpatine was like trying to kill Luke Skywalker like right in front of Anakin, right? And I think that's like that triggering moment. It's like it's like he realized about his family, and the decisions he made in his life was very important in that moment. And that's when he took Palpatine and threw him over the ledge. And it's about redemption a lot, especially for all these other characters. When you're saying about Han and Princess Leia, they had their own journeys too. Them all gathering together was a very pivotal moment for the final battle, I think.
I think we know which one is Mark's favorite.
But still, Empire for me is still Empire Strikes Back really is still my favorite.
Yeah. See, I feel like Empire Strikes Back does what Return of the Jedi tried to do, but better. Like, it still had some kind of filler moments, like with the weird worm on that moon.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that was kind of random.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it did kind of have a lot, I guess, better character arcs for the characters like Leia and Han and everybody. But Empire Strikes Back, it's both of yours.
I think so, yeah. I mean,
Empire Strikes Back is for me.
Yeah.
It's even in like my top 10 films of all time.
Wow.
Wait, you want to talk about how you got into Star Wars, Mark?
Oh yeah. So for me, my journey started with the special edition, the 1997 re-release.
That's probably what I had to.
But I watched it in theaters. I didn't watch it on VHS or DVD.
Okay.
Yeah. Like after I saw A New Hope, I was like, wow, this I don't know. I just fell in love with it, and then I watched, of course, like when they released the next two films. But that really started my love for like Star Wars as a young kid. And even then, like watching that special edition, like you said, for you, Mike, you saw a different version, and you've probably seen some of the different color schemes, because like most people didn't even know that like C-3PO was actually not gold in the original film.
Oh no, he was shiny as fuck by the time I got the films.
So, looking at that version at that time, they re-released it because obviously they were prepping for the prequel trilogy, which came 2 years later. But that's where it started for me, and I really fell in love with the characters and the big twist, in Empire Strikes Back. I don't know. I think it's part nostalgia and part of the storytelling, because that big reveal in Empire Strikes Back is like one of the biggest in history, right?
Oh, yeah.
No one would have ever expected that. Oh, I'm your father. Like, what would you say that to someone? And like, you're fighting someone who you thought is very evil, big threat to all of the universe, and find out that's actually related to you by blood. The storytelling was amazing on that, and it's still going to be very tough for any film to really top that. Empire Strikes Back, I can watch it all day on repeat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I liked it a lot too because it kind of did Infinity War before Infinity War, where the heroes are in a state that they're worse off than they started the film on. So there's kind of that inherent tension that you want to see it resolved in the next film. Like, you're kind of bitter about how things turned out, and you're shell-shocked like Luke was. Hearing his father, then having his own dad cut his damn hand off.
Exactly.
That shit's crazy. Only a certain subpopulation can relate to that feeling. But how do you feel about Luke Skywalker as a character? Because for me, I feel like one of the reasons, like you did mention characters, and one of the reasons I really like the original trilogy is because of him. Even though he's very archetypal as a hero, he still like kind of performs his role well, and you can kind of relate to him. How do either of you feel about that?
I think at that time, before all of this was going on with all these different movies and the portrayal of a hero, I think at that time it was something fresh and new, because you, like we talked about before, right? The hero's journey, and for him, he really portrayed someone as being like the savior or the messiah, whatever people wanted to help save them. But as years go by and you've seen different ways of how a hero is portrayed, it gets more complex nowadays. So a lot of people nowadays, I feel like they don't really appreciate it as much, but it definitely served as like a template for heroes and leaders for different movies or action movies and sci-fi films. Because actually, it's funny enough that, with Star Wars, with George Lucas, he was actually heavily influenced by Dune, the book.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And you can see kind of similarities from Dune, for those who've watched Dune, and see like how the character is when he's like realizing what his path is going to lead to and the hardship that he has to overcome. I think it serves as a template, but again, as time has gone now, it's gotten more complex. And for Luke's character too, in the beginning, he didn't really see himself coming into this journey. He was just on his own planet in Tatooine.
He's a little twerp.
Yeah, I mean, who would really expect, oh, I had this big responsibility now and try to fight the Empire? So it's something that most heroes also that we've seen in other mediums, they're not ready to go on this journey. It's something that, again, it serves as a template later on.
Yeah, he didn't train. He was just complaining to his uncle. He's like, I gotta go to Tashi Station to get the power converters. That's what he used to sound like. And then towards the end of Return of the Jedi, he's like a man. Like, he's a fully realized hero who's accepted his role.
Yeah, I think that first moment when he saw Darth Vader fighting Obi-Wan, and then Obi-Wan sacrificed himself.
Oh, that's so good.
I think that was just like the moment that he realized that something is really going on, that he opened his eyes going forward.
Yeah, and the John Williams score accompanying that scene, and like others in the original trilogy too, like that elevated the material so strongly. Anna, what are your thoughts? How was the Chinese version stacked up?
I think it was about the same, but like
Okay.
I think Luke as the character, from when I watched it, was not the interesting character to me. And I think it just speaks volume as to like the type of person I am, where I have never found an interest in main characters. I've always found interest in side characters, because it's like, I get it, like he's like, it's almost like a coming of age type of thing, like as we prepare for the movie, right? I get it, but at the same time I'm like, I don't, because I can understand how some people can say they really relate to like certain things that happen for Luke and everything like that. But for me, when I was watching it, I was like, "You're so whiny. Oh my gosh!"
He was
like,
very whiny.
yeah, and then the whole like meeting your father, having your mentor killed, yada yada yada. It's like
That bullshit.
it's like I was like.
It didn't move you.
No, it didn't. Because at that same time, I was already deep in anime. So, like, there was more complex, relationship and character development happening in anime. And I'm watching this, like, 90s, 80s movie.
You're like, who cares?
But, like, it didn't change the fact that, like, I appreciate the character design and the characters themselves, It's just that Luke himself was just not, like, ooh, I want to know more about you. I want to know what makes you tick. I want to know what do you encompass? That kind of vibe. You know what I mean? I got that more from Han Solo, but maybe because, like, I have a thing for bad boys or something like that, and Han kind of fit that mold for me.
Well, Luke wasn't mysterious at all, whereas Han, like, especially in the earlier movies, you really had to guess what some of his character motivations were.
Oh my gosh, and Harrison Ford in his younger days.
No, that's definitely valid. There's a certain levels to this, and Harrison Ford is a little bit over Mark Hamill for me as well.
Yeah, and then I think aside from like the fact that like Harrison Ford had like this cool like suave to him, it was like he has this mysterious thing about him, like, oh, what's his story, what's his background, why is he like so wanted, where did he get this Millennium Falcon from and everything like that, all this like questions that were never answered until like much later into like the Star Wars universe kind of situation. Even Leia wasn't particularly interesting.
I'm a Leia hater, I'm sorry. I agree, she was not interesting.
Yeah, like even Leia wasn't particularly interesting for me, and everyone else was. I was like, where did Chewbacca come from? Where's the species like? Like, where's his planet? Like, things like that was like the things that I was like questioning, and none of it had anything to do with like Luke or Leia.
Yeah, it's very interesting too, because Anakin in the prequels is a very dynamic character, and then he gave birth to the two most boring people in the galaxy. But for Luke, it works more for me because he's more of like a stable presence, like kind of like a comforting presence, whereas Leia just never did anything for me. In the sequels, it was even worse.
Well, Leia kissed her brother.
That was the first. That was a very impactful kissing of brother moment in cinema.
And then made Ben. It was incest! Okay, anyways.
Yeah, but it was an oopsie daisy.
They didn't know at the time.
Didn't know. George Lucas didn't know it yet either. It was a surprise to everybody.
Whatever.
Whatever. But how did you guys feel like it evolved from there? Like, do you have any like overarching feelings about the original trilogy, like on its own and also compared to like what's come since then?
So my take on the original trilogy is, even though I don't particularly like the main characters, I think it really has to be appreciated for what it's done in terms of like cultural significance and everything like that, right? But the production that went into it, like all the little fine minute details, like you don't really think about that they did, because then nowadays everything can be CGI'd or like whatever, right? But they like, if you ever find like the behind the scenes as to how they made the original like trilogy Star Wars, it is like painstakingly detailed, and I was like so appreciative of what they did back in the 80s just to make such a what feels like a large scale production to begin with, Nowadays you have freaking Christopher Nolan making freaking actual bombs to make an actual bomb go off in a movie.
Is this the second podcast in a row that you're gonna talk about Oppenheimer?
But I'm trying to prove a point here. Is like they made with what they had, and I think it's like amazing as to what they did, like with such imagination to do so into like making what they did. I mean, Dune now looks great. Dune back then, not
didn't look great back
you
in
know?
the day.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like you can appreciate the production in it for its time, and then like how it kind of like catapulted the sci-fi genre itself, and then how it created this whole like cult around it. And like I think it's just such a well embedded thing in our culture, only because of like all the like things that they took to do in terms of production, in terms of movie, in terms of like I guess quote unquote edgy like plots and stuff like that, like having your father be your enemy and then like having a limb cut off and kissing your sister and all that jazz, you know what I mean?
You're gonna
like,
say it again.
but like it's like the idea like there were like certain things that made it like different from the movies during that time, and that's what made it stood out, and it still stood out even like into the 90s, I think, because of the fact that it had like all these different like aspects to it, like of the plot and character developments, and then of the like production value of it all.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like they really had to painstakingly create everything with like a shitload of different techniques, like stop motion, matte painting. The dude who played C-3PO had to get into the fucking like a bronze ass suit and walk around. It was crazy. And his wife had to edit the film to make it good.
Even for R2D2, you had to get a smaller person.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. Yeah, those aren't like actual robotics. Those are people like kind of like just kind of scuttling around. Yes, that's a really good point you actually bring up. Because I know a lot of things nowadays, like in terms of visuals, like they sometimes cut corners now even. Not that CGI is easier to do, because it still requires a lot of work, but even something like Dune 1, I noticed there were some scenes where it didn't look that good, and that's kind of wild. Whereas I know in Star Wars, like the original, like I'm sure if like a fine eye can find like flaws, but like for a while I kind of didn't see too many issues with it.
You should really look up on YouTube, like, or at least online, the original comparison on some of the scenes. I don't know if most people would have loved it today. I really think that a lot of the re-editing done really made it look much better than it was originally intended. For example, there was the one scene with Han Solo. He meets Jabba the Hutt. He knew Jabba the Hutt already from before because he owes him money. But that particular scene where he comes in from the side, I've seen so many re-edits of that scene, and especially from the original, they said that even Jabba the Hutt was not initially supposed to be in that scene itself. So it even changed a little bit of the plot, and when I saw the older scenes and the older production, I really don't know if people would have liked it today. But still, a lot of the things, the techniques, like you said, that they did was still more advanced for its time. So I think it still stood out for a lot of people when they initially watched it in theaters back then.
Yeah, and also just like the idea of watching like a big science fiction movie. When before 75, the first one came out? 77. Like, when before then were people willing to kind of sit down and be like, hey, you want to see a science fiction film? Would never happen. And for me, it was my first science fiction film. So it does kind of like shape a lot of people's like perception of what a science fiction film is kind of supposed to be and feel like.
And since we were talking about edits, and this always is a topic for Star Wars, who shot first?
Maclunkey.
Han Solo?
Maclunkey shot first. That's why they put the line in there. No, I didn't notice it as a child, but like...
Yeah.
No, you know what? I just like did kind of like a brain blast type thing where I looked back into my past self, and yeah, Han definitely did like the little neck thing, but I didn't notice it as much. Like it wasn't as jarring as a child because like I didn't know what it was supposed to be, and it's like fast when you're like just watching it, but like when you really like know what's supposed to happen, and he does like a little like it looks really dumb.
Yeah.
Like Han can shoot first, man. It's okay. Like nowadays, Andor would definitely shoot first.
Oh my gosh.
He shoots first, he shoots last. One shot, one kill.
No hesitation.
Nope. This is the new age of Star Wars, ladies and gents.
Gosh.
But Mark, like, yeah, how do you feel about like the original trilogy compared to like the rest of the series? Like, do you feel like it's still the golden standard?
I still think it is. I mean, because again, it set the tone for a lot of what Star Wars could be. Because now, with all the different films and projects that came out, they've expanded even further. And like I was telling you guys even before we started recording, like the Star Wars lore is crazy. There's just so much information about different planets and different characters now, different of the Jedi, the history of the Jedi. I mean, people just want more and more information on seeing that being portrayed on the big screen or small screen, but it definitely served the way for years that came afterwards.
And since you mentioned all the lore, I have a bone to pick actually, not with you, with Star Wars and their decisions specifically post Disney, because we have this vast galaxy, right? We have an entire galaxy, long time ago, so it could be any time, but we always come back to like 50 years before or after like the original trilogy, essentially. Like we always go to the same time period again, and like I want to see stuff from way before or way after, like just completely new stuff. Like how many times we've been to like Tatooine or a Tatooine like planet, and that's kind of one of my biggest issues, which we're going to talk about more when, like with the sequels, is that they rehash the same things when they have this vast galaxy, and it actually makes the galaxy feel really small to me. Like the originals, everything was new, but now when I see 70-year-old Leia coming out in with a cane, it's like I want to do something else. I don't want the First Order. I don't want the Empire again. Like let's go somewhere else. Let's follow like a non-human protagonist even. Let's do something else.
So, with that being said, did you not like the fact? So you're mentioning post Disney acquired.
Yeah.
But so, what did you think about the Star Wars prequel then?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I almost completely skipped over it. Yeah, I have a fond place for the prequels, and I did even while they were getting hate for like 15 years. With the exception of the second one. I really did not like the second one.
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah,
Okay.
The Attack of the Clones, where it kind of felt like the worst parts of both The Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith. It didn't really have anything it needed to do, right? It was just bridging the gap between one and the other when that wasn't really necessary, in my opinion. But the first one, Phantom Menace, I am like a huge apologist for. I really liked it. Don't look at me like that, Anne. I saw that. I really liked it. I liked Qui-Gon. I liked seeing like the Gungan city. I thought Jar Jar was funny as a child, but that's because I have like a Scooby-Doo type sense of humor. Like obviously the fight with Darth Maul, everybody loves.
And the score for that scene.
The score,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
The new songs in the prequel trilogy fucking slapped. The choreography by, I think the guy who play Darth Maul actually did the choreography for the scene as well.
Oh, I actually did not know that.
Yeah, Ray Park, and he also was Toad in the original X-Men movie, which is just a little fun fact for you guys. And even though the kid version of Anakin was like not an amazing actor, I still kind of liked those scenes in Tatooine, like with his mom and the pod racing and him being a slave that needed to be freed. For some reason that was compelling for me. The midichlorian thing never really bothered me. For those who might not remember, the midichlorian was kind of an explanation for the Force. Certain individuals had types of cells that amplified their ability to use the Force. And a lot of people felt like it kind of took away the mysticism or magical feel of the Force, even like the religious aspect. But for me, I don't know, that never really bothered me, because you have to kind of have some way to differentiate like who can use the Force and who can't, right? Because it was clearly like kind of a birth thing from the original, because Luke never trained, was not like religious at all, but he was able to pick up like using the Force in like a year, whereas like other Jedi would take like decades. So there was clearly some sort of genetic component to it, but this is just an explanation for it. But I guess people don't really want to think about that kind of shit.
No, I definitely agree on that. Like, I think there had to be some element where they could measure, the potential of someone controlling the Force, because they never talked about that in the original trilogy. And in order to have that, when they introduced it, like I said, it served like a template even for further additions and for other Jedis later on, like saying, oh, if you have a high midichlorian account, maybe there's something about you that's special. Even in other projects that I've seen, they've used that as a way of storytelling, because they were like taking these kids who had a high midichlorian account, they were like using them in experiments in such a way that, maybe they can use them to bring them to for the Jet, or well, mainly for the Sith, because they're experimenting for them. But it just kind of brought in more on the potential aspect of what a Jedi can be, and how much, or even for the Sith, that they can use the Force.
Yeah, I don't know why people had such a big issue with it. Like, we never had any reason to believe that anybody could use the Force, because in the original, Darth Vader used the Force and everyone was like, called him an idiot for it. But in reality, he was able to kill people from like a large distance away. And if everyone could do that, why would they not? And they're like, no, you're just clinging to the old ways. Look at this gun I got. And it's like, the gun doesn't do shit. Gun misses half the time.
The guns in fucking... Okay. The gun in the freaking Star Wars universe is just absolutely fucking useless. I think we all can agree about that.
It's not great.
The only time I've ever actually like seen it like work properly was maybe in Andor.
You didn't like how it worked in Andor.
Hey.
Okay. What?
Not even Mandalorian?
Oh yeah, Mando too.
Mando, yeah.
But like, that's it. They can't fucking shoot. They like miss. I don't know. Maybe like the laser curves. You gotta account for like the wind clicks and everything. I don't know. But like, it just never worked. I would be thinking like, what's the point of it? Might as well just get freaking lightsabers at this point.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make sense. If everyone can use a lightsaber and force choke, why would they not? So this just kind of puts a term to it, and people just want to think that they can be a Jedi, but you can't. You gotta be good.
But like, that's the other thing. You mentioned how like being a Jedi is like, you gotta be kind of sort of born with it. But then like, I guess if we touch a little bit onto like the sequel, bro, what the frick? In like at the end of like the first movie, where like they hinted off that this child has like the Force, so that means the first of the sequel.
No, it was the second of the sequels.
Was it the second of the sequel?
It was.
You're talking about the kid in the racetrack.
With the broomstick.
Yes, the broomstick.
Yeah, that was Last Jedi.
My point is, what the freak is that? It's supposed to be some quote unquote like passed down to you or something like that, but no, you got this random child. It's like in Avatar, the Last Airbender, in Korra, where all of a sudden there's a bunch of airbenders again.
Yeah, bro. They just spread the midichlorians out into the universe.
No, that's not how it should work.
Well, I kind of see it almost as like a Harry Potter type thing, where, you know, like, you can have like non-magical children born of magical like wizards and stuff, and vice versa. So like, I kind of saw it as that way. A what?
Sort of like it's like dormant.
Yeah, like it can be like a recessive gene or something for some people, or like some generations get it, some don't. So maybe that kid just like was lucky. His gene expression was better than the other kids.
Well, they're like having hemophilia, but not hemophilia.
Yeah, something like that.
What's a condition? So
hemophilia for the Force. Yeah, I'm sorry, your son has the Force. No!
Or it's like, what's the more recent anime? Mashle? Like how all these people are born with magic, and then you have Mashle who isn't born with magic.
Rock Lee.
I
don't know why I pointed like he's dead.
Yeah, he's not dead in anime.
He's dead in my heart because there's no show past Naruto. Yeah, so that's the fandom menace. Do you guys have feelings on that movie?
For me, I still enjoyed it. I think it set the premise for Anakin. Again, he's still a kid, right? But there's still like little things you saw out of him, because like when he got angry that he didn't win and being enslaved, I think, you know, he always wanted to have that freedom for his family, especially for his mom.
Yeah, they left his mom behind, man.
Yeah, which like heavily influenced for the movies afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's always wanted to have that connection, and it keeps taking, you know, from him. And I mean, for Anakin, okay, again, he's still a kid, so it's like it's hard to really say that in the beginning for the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the storyline itself, it could have been a little bit better. I mean, it was nice to see the pod racing, and again, I know people have the gripe with Jar Jar Binks, which I don't understand either. You know, he's supposed to be like the comic relief in all of this. But, you know, it's starting to set the tone about what the rise of the Empire.
Yeah, I think people who have an issue with Jar Jar, like, forget how annoying C-3PO was, too. all of like Lucas Star Wars films had at least one annoying character that was supposed to be funny.
But like, I didn't see them as annoying either, so that's why I was like, why do people? I think like people didn't like Jar Jar when they heard about the idea that Jar Jar could be a Sith.
That's just a theory, though.
No, I know it's just a theory, but it's like I don't see what makes Jar Jar like. I normally don't like annoying characters, but I didn't see Jar Jar like that annoying, and I didn't even think C-3PO was that annoying.
He almost lost the race.
Yeah.
When he pulled that thing out of the...
He was just a goober. Like, that's it. I don't know why they let him go on Tatooine. Like, they could have left him on the ship. I don't know why they let him go, but whatever.
I like the underwater world though, from his beings from his species.
Yeah, the
I thought that was
Gungans.
pretty cool. Gungans, yeah. And the way they talk.
Oh yeah, you thinking you no better than the Gungans? Oh, then he just like the Richard Nixon shit.
Mhm.
I don't want to do it because I'll like get my headphones ripped off. But yeah, that's something I wanted to note as well. Is the prequels had like a lot of not biodiversity, but like a lot of diversity in locations, where every location was like interesting. And I wanted to use this as a point against the sequels, where you go to space Las Vegas, for example, Hoth, except it's made of salt instead of snow, and like Jakku, which is just Tatooine version 2.
That's true.
That's true.
It just like contributed to my feelings of the sequels making the galaxy seem small.
Yeah, and I agree, because like at this point the sequel has like the fundings to like expand on themselves to make it like a better, like the whole point is to always do better than your last, and they had the opportunity to do better than their last, especially given how many years it's been and how technology has developed, and yet we were still stuck in the same damn places.
Yep.
And it's not even like we're stuck in the same damn places as the prequel. It just felt like we were just stuck in the same damn places as the original like trilogy.
Yeah, and that's, as you'll come to learn once we talk more about the sequels, that was my biggest issue with them, is that they retread too much water.
That is something. And they didn't have like a character like Jar Jar or like C-3PO.
Well, they brought C-3PO back.
But he was only there for like how much of the time?
He actually had like an emotional arc in the last movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
And it sucked.
Right. Yeah.
It's bad.
But like they didn't create. My point is they didn't create a new character.
Yeah. No, there was no new comic relief, and well, if you count Poe, maybe, but not really.
No, not really. He barely was around in like. He was like around in what?
Mostly in
1.25 of the 3.
Yeah.
He had a big scene in the 3 with the fight battle.
That's why I said 1.25 out of 3.
He did that prank call in the 8th movie to the guy on the Star Destroyer, and I was in the theater watching it, and I actually wanted to die. That's when I knew I was not, like, this might just be over for me. This might just not be the series for me anymore.
I feel like I watched all 3 of the sequels with Mark, and I can tell you there's only certain moments of the sequels that I remember.
Yeah, like
and
the
that's
kid.
It. Like the kid, because I questioned it, like, why? And then I think the other one was, I thought, okay, the only time I thought the movie was good was that one point in time where they were like, I don't remember which movie it was to begin with. Because
I have a feeling it's Last Jedi.
Yeah,
the one where they're in a spaceship and they like a bunch of them escape except one person, and then she did the hyperspace to cut through the other ship.
No, it wasn't Leia.
No, it wasn't Leia.
No, I know you're talking about. It's the captain, right?
Lord,
and then she stayed behind to like hide through the...
Yeah, Holdo.
But my point is that was like breathtaking scene in cinematography.
I wasn't done before. Yeah.
You know, like that, like the.
I would have thought.
But like it's the idea that like silence spoke so loud in that like one scene, and that's like one of the scenes that I remember. The other scene was when I was like, I made the prediction that Rey was gonna turn dark, and then she had the potential to turn dark, and then she fucking did it, and I was like, what the fuck?
And I hate to tell you, you only remember one of the movies because all the things happened in one of them. Only one.
Oh, no.
But that was like, the most memorable one.
Yeah, for like.
I don't know about that.
Interesting. All right,
Okay,
well,
or like
let's wrap up the prequel talk
I don't.
first.
okay, prequel was meant for me. I only like probably like the last movie out of the 3, and that was it.
Fair. The best one was really good.
But you gotta tell us why. Why did you like
Well,
Revenge
the
of the
first one
Sith?
I didn't care for like the child like growing up phase and the fact that you have
Hates children.
You're basically just saying that you hate grooming and
Every child in
Yes,
these movies Anna doesn't
fucking-
like.
It was grooming.
No.
It was literally grooming because
Not grooming.
how old was Padme?
She was supposed to be 14.
And how old was Anakin?
Like 10 or 11.
yeah.
He does not look 10 or 11.
Okay, I thought you were going a different direction with this because I thought you meant that the Jedi were grooming them because they kind of are a little bit.
Okay, the Jedis are
Well,
a cult of its own.
They are
to
kind
be
of a
fair.
cult.
Okay, we're going a little off topic here, but to quickly summarize that part, Jedi is a
ain't
cult
never
of its
been a
own, and then
topic.
also the Sith are also a cult of its own. And they're just two cults fighting against each
Yeah.
other. It's like literally the Democrats versus Republican at this point.
Oh, I wouldn't
Anyways.
say that. Okay, we're just gonna move on.
Um,
I wouldn't use
Yeah.
that
Um,
example.
My point was that I didn't care for episode 1 because I don't know, it was like I wasn't that interested in Anakin's childhood. Like I get what you were saying, Mark, in terms of like how it really set the stone and set the stage for his like character development. I just felt like we were just spending way too much time on that shit, you know? Like I was like, pod racing, but like is it gonna be like important later?
Okay, a little bit because he
little bit.
becomes a renowned pilot.
Sure.
It really, but like your enjoyment of the prequel does depend on how much you care about like the prequel's continuity in itself. Which, yeah, if you don't, then yeah, it's probably a mid experience.
Yeah, because like I didn't care for this like blooming love that happens between Anakin and Padme. Like I didn't care for that shit.
It certainly was something.
you're talking about the second one.
No, yeah, I'm talking
Well,
about
yeah,
the
the
second.
prequels in general, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I'm just talking about prequels in general. Like
Okay.
the first one, I didn't care about Anakin growing up as a child, and then the second one, I didn't care about the blooming love between the two of them. Like none of that was like of interest to me.
Hates
All right,
kids,
how about
hates love.
what about Obi-Wan's journey? Because there's a big
There you go.
Yeah.
aspect in that.
No, so
Especially
like,
starting from the battle scene with Darth Maul, like that's his master that he took, right? And now he has to raise this kid, become a Jedi too, because that was the mission.
but like this is where I get at where none of the main characters are ever of interest to me. Obi-Wan interests me, but like the movie is not about Obi-Wan. It's about Anakin and how he becomes Darth Vader, you know?
I think that's more perspective because I don't think it's all just Anakin. Because again, with the prequel, you got to see different places and different planets and environment. So it's more than just Anakin's journey. It's just also the development of other places too.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean. Like Anakin's storyline in the prequel, it just wasn't strong enough to tell until probably Revenge of the Sith.
He's the emotional core of the prequels, for better or worse.
He was too like angsty for me.
What do you mean? I thought you liked bad boys.
He wasn't a bad boy to me. He just came off as a very angsty like person.
He was angsty, and that's how he became a bad boy.
No.
He was also lied to.
He was the baddest boy.
I know he was also lied to, but like
He was.
that makes me feel like he's kind of dumb if he gets like.
Well, he was groomed by 3 different people. Now that you
Okay.
mentioned that, because Emperor Palpatine also did it.
Alright, maybe not dumb, but maybe emotionally.
Manipulated. I get it. Like me watching this back then, I was
Anna's
like,
never
man.
been a slave, and you can tell.
Me watching it back then, I was like, I can care less about you. Show me more about Jar Jar Binks. And
Show
like,
me more Jar. Yeah, I want to see what he turns into. I mean, Jar Jar became a senator, and then he could have become a Sith Lord. Like, it could have been the Jar
That's
Jar
what I'm
show.
saying. I'm like, bro has like cooler development than what's happening over here.
Oh my god.
My dude like got married in secret and got this chick knocked up, and then they couldn't even keep the babies because he went cuckoo. He did not have the higher ground.
No, he didn't.
That's true.
He always had the low ground.
So that's how I feel about the prequel. It's just kind of like I can tell you about Anakin in like one sentence, but I cannot do that for like, the more interesting characters in my opinion, like Obi-Wan or like Jar Jar's like character. I feel like they're more interesting in their own little ways.
I can't remember. Did you like Samuel L. Jackson just for his lightsaber or for his character?
I
Lightsaber.
forgot he was in it.
He had the purple lightsaber.
Yeah, exactly. He had the purple lightsaber and I was only interested in that.
I get what you mean. Especially also with Jango Fett's storyline. I didn't think it was too impactful.
No.
No,
Maybe
not really.
maybe just for Boba Fett later on because like he's just revenge on Obi-Wan.
Yeah, exactly. Like
But that's
feel
a
like
typical revenge plot.
right. So that's what I'm saying. It's just kind of like plot-wise, it was just kind of like also very kind of vibe at that point. Like I see you're trying to be a little darker and edgier than your like original series, but then you're becoming a little too cringe for me. I need you to pull it back a little bit.
Well, that's kind of my biggest issue with the prequels, if I had to say one, is that George's dialogue is not amazing at times, especially between Anakin and Padme. I usually skip that shit on rewatches, and I skip the second movie in general, because... No, I agree with you, Anna.
I feel like I can kind of agree with the second one being my least favorite. I think the Clone Wars animated series probably did better to tell the storyline than Attack of the Clones. Because they showed like the real hardships that people were having.
See, that's interesting. No one gives a fuck about an angsty boy and his girlfriend that he knocks up.
What do you mean? People give a lot of fucks about angsty boys. Have you seen any fandom on the internet?
Does it look like I care about those?
Anna's not in those fandoms. Mark,
Yeah.
did you have any thoughts about the prequels before we move on that we haven't like touched upon?
No, I think we pretty much touched on everything. I mean, it's still a touchy subject because people felt like there wasn't as much substance to what was really going on. And I think probably other mediums have told a better story of what happened during that era.
Such as the Clone Wars.
Such as the Clone Wars, yeah. And Rebels too, it's the same. It's still not gonna top the original for me.
Moving forward, after the prequel is when we hit Disney era Star Wars.
Yeah, for a while there was like a lull, like Star Wars was over.
I think because of the criticism that came with the prequel trilogy, I think it took a toll on George Lucas, and that's probably why he went into like early retirement and sold Lucasfilms to Disney before they did the sequel series. Because he was only in the sequel series, he was only creative. What was the term that he used?
Like
Creative
consultant,
director?
maybe?
Consultant.
Bro was probably not even there.
I believe
He
it.
probably showed up on set one day and said, you know,
Nah,
it's pretty
he probably
good.
no, he probably just showed up on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, hey, look, it's another Death Star. He's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, bye.
But like, okay, we move into Disney era and they start like freaking producing a shit ton of stuff out. The same way to Marvel is like they're just now throwing a bunch of shit. I guess the question, do you want to talk about the sequels or do you want to talk about the side stories?
Well, I feel like the sequels kind of are more intricately tied to the purchase because, like, the first thing that came out was... Shit, what was the first one called?
Force Awakens.
Yeah, The Force Awakens, which is, like, the first Star Wars thing in a while. And I have to imagine, like, we all kind of had an emotional reaction to both the announcement that more Star Wars was going to be made and then actually seeing it.
Yeah.
Because my mind was very turbulent during that time. I was excited when it was announced, but then like watching it, my mind wavered between a lot of skepticism to like kind of being excited again. Because for me, the parts about The Force Awakens I didn't like were retreading old paths with Leia and Han and everything, doing A New Hope again with like the second Death Star, the Empire just being back essentially. Like it's supposed to be this small ass resistance, but then it's just the Empire Part 2. But then afterwards, like I remember when I was watching it in the theater, the scene in the snow with Finn, Kylo, and Rey, just them kind of showing off their characters and kind of fighting amongst themselves. That was the part that actually got me excited for future films. I thought the newer stuff was actually the best stuff.
I can kind of agree in that. I think with Force Awakens, I think that was like the first one that really divided a lot of the fan base because it really was mostly fan service. It just basically used a lot of the old tropes from A New Hope, and some people didn't like it because they wanted a whole new story moving forward with the whole
That's me.
Skywalker Saga. Yeah. So it's definitely one of those that definitely started the whole divide with the fan base. But like you said, like there were still some scenes that were very interesting to see. With Kylo when he killed Han, I mean that was a very impactful moment.
Oh, yeah.
But it also felt like it was kind of repetitive of what we've seen before.
Mhm.
So with Kylo Ren, it was like interesting to see what his backstory would be, which we would later find out. But it was tough enough for me also to try to understand from when they introduced him and reintroducing the old characters also.
It was a lot.
But it was just a lot to take. But overall, I still enjoyed it because of what they were trying to do. Because they were trying to ignite the fan base, like hoping that this would be something interesting with the sequel trilogy. You would see all the old gang back together and introducing new characters. But it didn't hit the spot as much as like the original trilogy because it's kind of a bit of recycled and introducing new concepts, but not strong enough for the entire plotline.
Yeah, I liked new characters a lot. Like Finn, Rey, and Kylo honestly had a lot of potential. Well, I'd say especially Finn in terms of character. Like his character was kind of the most novel idea that we've seen in the sequel trilogy up to that point. Whereas Kylo, I think he was just a really cool presence mainly because of his actor, Adam Driver, putting in a very good performance. Then the old stuff just dragged it down so much. But by the end, and like them killing Han, it kind of did make me think like maybe this is going to be finally turning the page into a new era. And then I was wrong.
I think Finn was really like my favorite too because like
Yeah.
he started off with being a stormtrooper, and then that first scene where he saw that they were killing people in the village, he's like, is this what I'm supposed to be really doing? And then his like basically he converted by the end of the movie to join the Rebel Alliance, even though he lied to Rey about his true intentions, like where he originally was from. And I like the dialogue between especially Rey and Finn, although I know Anna doesn't really like their chemistry together as much. I think we talked about that before.
As actors, characters, like
the characters.
Oh, okay. Just in general, like
Because it felt like they were trying to place a triangle.
a
in
love triangle.
Yeah, like between Rey and Finn and between Rey and Kylo. Like that's what it felt like they were trying to initially do in the first movie, and then somehow they moved from Finn to being kind of having a love interest with Rose.
Well,
And then
he was
that,
like,
like,
no.
For some reason, like that fell off because the fans hate it.
They
and
did
listened
Finn
to
so
it.
fucking dirty in the trilogy, man.
They did. If we're just okay, can someone remind me how the first movie ended with just
I
Kylo
watched the
killing?
films.
I watched it with you.
I mean, to
I
be
know, but
fair,
you're trying to remember.
to be fair, I have had no urge to rewatch the film since the last one came out.
But, like,
so I don't
it
blame
ended-
you.
It doesn't exactly end with just Ben killing.
No, that's like
Han.
3/4 into the movie.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what was like the final scene? Can you even remember?
I thought it was
Finn,
like the
Finn was hurt because
Yeah.
he got injured. Rey was with the rebellion crew, right? Because they were like
Yeah, she like rejoined like Leia and Chewie and shit. Finn got injured because he stood up to Kylo in the snow. And he like took up the lightsaber, like kind of trying to. He's like showing bravery above like kind of his role, because like it's not clear if he has any sort of Force talent at all. So
how could we forget the most important part of that?
what's that?
Rey had the lightsaber.
Yeah, Luke's
Yeah,
lightsaber.
they brought it to Luke on the planet. That's how it ended.
Yes, after the snow shit. I think R2D2 had like some sort of map to Luke and she went there to bring the lightsaber to him.
Yeah.
Because his location was hidden in the galaxy, so they
He,
had to find him.
he didn't share his location on his phone.
Mhm.
But like, okay, so my point in being all this is that I agree. Like, first movie was just like a bunch of fan service stuff because we were seeing like everybody, and then like and then even towards to the very end, we hint off that we're gonna see
service.
Luke. Yeah, and there's more fan service, pretty much, right?
That's why it really was sad. It's because at that moment I was like, oh shit, we're about to fucking see Luke Skywalker again.
Yeah, I think I would have been fine if that was the only fan service. Like, it was entirely new story, but then like at the end, they're about to see Luke.
Yeah, like I felt like if they had less, if the old characters had less of a insert in the movies, then I would have been fine. Like, it just felt like their presence overwhelmed what was going on like throughout the rest of the plot. But even then, like the actual plot itself felt very, very flat.
Well, yeah, it's the same shit we've done already, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
worse.
it was just like a lot of like wrong direction and chemistry, in my opinion, in terms of like making this movie. And then
Yeah.
we know that we're gonna meet Luke at the very end, and then next movie we end up meeting Luke.
And what does he do?
And we interrupted his milk drinking session, so we had to go back to that.
Not only that, he threw the freaking lightsaber across the side.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, my heart was like, what the hell just happened?
That's the biggest troll moment ever.
Oh my god. I was like, really?
At that point, they were like trying to rage bait people.
But Luke being Luke is just like, okay, now he shows up and he's like this disgruntled old man and shit like that.
Which is the least Luke Skywalker thing ever, but you know.
To me, it fit him so well because Luke was just a regular fucking kid to me, and he just became a grumpy old man, which is what I expected out of him.
Yeah,
but like
he didn't get his pension.
No, but
So that's the only that's like one of the things with The Last Jedi that I only liked about with Luke's like storyline, because like you said, he became this savior from the original trilogy, and he's gone through all these things in his life. Eventually he's like, he just wants to be by himself, and realization that, you know, the Jedi are never really going to come back, so why even bother to train this person who you just met?
Well, to be fair, he's the one who fucked it up.
Yeah, he's the one who pretty much tried to kill Ben, and Ben realized he has some evil in him.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I wasn't sold by that.
Yeah.
Like, if it was portrayed better, then sure.
See, that's the other thing. It's like everything is so vague, and it's vague enough to the point where they can kind of twist it to however they want to twist it. And I think like that's the problem. It's like they kind of saw it as possible solution, but it's actually a freaking problem here, because it's like there's no clear direction. It felt like there was an A plot, a B plot, and a C plot happening.
Oh, there
And
was.
like they were kind of like next to each other, but they weren't like perfectly connecting to make an actual like, if you understand what I'm trying to say. All these characters had their own things going, but it doesn't really make as much sense as to what the overarching goal was. Like, what was the goal of this entire like series to really portray?
To
you know,
make money.
because like the original series is like pretty much the idea of the goal that they had was to defeat Darth Vader and to defeat the Death Star. It's the story of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
But now the sequel trilogy, it's like, what are we getting at? Is it the story of how Rey becomes a Jedi? Is it how like Finn became like changed? I don't know what's the word. Like how he became from a stormtrooper to a rebel, like, or how Ben became like evil but then self-sacrificed. It's like, what is like the overarching like thing here?
There basically was like no clear direction.
Yeah.
If anything, I was gonna say they were competing directions, because the first and second movie actively tried to contradict each other, and then the ninth movie tries to cancel out the eighth movie.
It's like
true.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah, 7 did in fact eat 9. But yeah, so 8 tried to completely swerve everything that we kind of had learned from 7. And then 9, because 8 was so contentious, tried to kind of erase the impact of 8 and bring it back to whatever it was trying to do in 7, which I guess was just kind of do the same shit as the original, because they bring Palpatine back and just do it again.
But like, if we look back, the directors is like J.J. Abrams did
It's 7.
7
He
and
did
9.
7 and 9.
Yeah, and then Rian Johnson did 8.
Yeah.
That was like my first big clue that it was going to be a big mess, because whenever they change directors like that, I feel like it just changes the whole momentum. If J.J. Abrams stayed on for the second one, maybe the plot would have been a little bit better. But because he's working with what Ryan did on The Last Jedi, it was hard enough for him to fulfill that.
I wouldn't even give him that much credit. 9
Really?
was not even a complete film, in my opinion. It felt like a draft of a movie. I think it was just a complete mess from the get-go. Like, the studio clearly did not know how to accomplish this task of making a story that was worth telling while also kind of appeasing a giant fan base. And I think having, even like in the original, like, George Lucas didn't direct all the movies. He had like other people direct 5 and 6, but he was still writing them.
That's correct. Yep.
So there was one voice still telling the story.
And then this is what I was saying earlier about how you guys are like coming at me about like how I don't know directors and stuff like that. But my point is like directors just direct whatever the writers write. The writer is the main storyteller here.
At least in this, yeah, like the director, it depends. Like Hollywood's weird. Like certain films, the director has a lot more say. But in this, yes, I definitely don't disagree with you that knowing that the writer is more important than knowing the director. Because I don't remember the director for like Empire Strikes Back. But I know it's a different guy. So Anna was right. I'm sorry.
I think it really depends on how much involvement they have.
Yeah.
Because George Lucas, it really did like come from his mind on this whole original trilogy. But as a director, I mean, you're still playing on what he wrote. I don't know. I guess it really depends. Because I don't really know the directors that well either for those two. So.
No, they were just like competent people.
Yeah, but I just know that George Lucas was heavily involved on the whole project itself, though.
Instead of having like J.J. Abrams or whoever, like other writers kind of continue, they gave the entire 8th movie to some guy. Like, essentially, I think Rian Johnson was known for Looper at that point, but that's about it. Like, he wasn't known as being like a person you could hand the keys to the car and expect to get it back in one piece, you know?
This was the choice that was made. Did I like it? No. Was I enjoying it? No. Like I said, there was only certain parts in like each movie that kind of like stood out to me. And
yeah, but I think as time has gone on, The Last Jedi would probably be the one that I like the most, because as you were listing like all the great moments in the sequels, all of them came from The Last Jedi because it was trying to do something new. And in a lot of ways, it came very close to becoming like kind of a great installment, but then it either shied away or went in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And then 9 was just like watching someone make a car out of a bunch of trash cans and try to drive it down the road.
9 was so discombobulating.
I was actively angry watching it. I was in a theater with like 10 people I brought to the movies, and I was just seething the whole time.
Like when Mark Hamill went like this.
What was
he was outside. They were like inside the base. And Kylo Ren put up the ships, and he just like.
Yeah. That was an 8 as well. Another like good moment.
He wasn't even there. But like, yeah, like 8 had like a lot of great moments, and I do agree it has like great battle moments, great like character moments, even in my opinion. But like,
except for the Rose Finn, you gotta defeat them with love.
I just felt really bad for the actress though.
No, that was horrible what happened.
I know.
Like, she didn't do bad at all. It was the script.
Which is why I always question: is it the acting or is it the script writing?
Yeah.
And even the one who played Rey, she had to deactivate her Instagram too.
Yeah, Meryl Streep couldn't have like done better with Rose's lines, dude. Like, she just had a bad story.
Yeah, which honestly sucked for them, because I feel like you don't really hear from any of them anymore, do you?
What, the actresses?
The actors in general. Like,
I mean, they never talk to me, so.
Shut up. I meant like they don't have like big projects that they're a part of.
Daisy Ridley's still doing stuff.
Yeah, I feel like they've been like kind of having steady work, but maybe not something on this level.
Finn did the sequel. What was that movie?
Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's been doing like a couple of projects that I think he's been interested in. I mean, Adam Driver's a megastar.
Adam Driver is just Adam Driver. He was like good before even Star Wars took him.
He was good, but like kind of, I guess, lesser known because I didn't know him.
No, but his later films were good too. Marriage Story I really liked.
Oh, I can't.
I really liked.
It hurts me too much.
What was that heist film that he did with?
He was good in, was it Black Klansman, I believe?
Yes, that's another good one.
Yeah, he was good.
That's another good one.
He's just good in everything he does. Like, I'd watch something if Adam Driver was connected to it.
Logan Lucky. That was the
Lucky. Okay.
I didn't watch watch that. But like, I think he is he a method actor? I don't remember. No, right? He's definitely like he has this like weird habit of not watching his movies that he acts in. Though I do know that.
I would kind of be the same, to be honest. Like, you don't want to watch that.
I think he only did a little bit of method acting when he was doing Marriage Story because of that fight scene.
Yeah, I can imagine that being really effective for that sort of movie.
But like, in terms of sequels, like, do you guys have any other commentary about it? Because like, to me, the sequels is like nothing. It's just dirt compared to even the prequel, in my opinion. Because at least the prequel had a freaking consistent story.
Yeah, no, the sequels didn't have a soul, especially 9. 9 just made me... 9 felt like it was using my childhood against me.
There was one actor we forgot in the sequels trilogy.
Oh, who's that?
Mr. Oscar Isaac.
Oh, yeah!
He's been... I think he's the most successful out of all of them right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's a very good actor, but between this and Apocalypse, he just sometimes gets roles that he can't really show off his acting skill. Like, he was very charming as Poe in the first 2, but then by the third one, I wanted to shoot him in the face. They fly now.
No, but, I mean, I think his recent projects with Across the Spider-Verse and Dune, and then... Did you watch Moon Knight, by the way?
I haven't watched it yet.
He was good in it.
I think he was really good.
He was in that movie Ex Machina as well.
I think that was one of the first ones I saw of him.
Yeah, he was the big fat like hedonistic AI programmer that I aspire to be. Just kidding. That movie was very excruciating to watch as an AI programmer, actually, just as a side note.
Are you that worried?
I'm not even worried. It was just frustrating to watch because so much of it was like very incorrect, but also presumptuous. Like, where he's like, yeah, man, once we make AI, the first thing we're gonna do is teach it how to fuck. I'm like, that's so ridiculous. Like, I understand some people would like aspire to that, but it would probably not be people who are successful in creating general intelligence.
That final scene where he got locked up, I was like, that kind of brought a fear on me for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he fucking deserved it, dog. Like, fuck him. But yeah, anyways, 9 felt like an absolute betrayal of everything. Like, they brought fucking Lando Calrissian from the grave, and Palpatine felt old even though he was already old to begin with. Like, he was just a corpse. They were literally grave robbing.
I didn't even understand how this motherfucker survived.
Somehow he returned.
His DNA. I thought they took his DNA, right?
I think that was what it was.
Something like that. And like Snoke. Oh, we didn't even mention Snoke.
Wait, we didn't even mention the fact that Rey is his granddaughter.
Yeah, that's another thing that I hated. Like,
such a fucking random fact.
Again, it was the 8th film fighting with the other films, because 8 with the child was trying to show that like you don't have to be born of like special people to be a Jedi, and then this one says you do.
Yeah, exactly.
So literally just competing voices yelling over each other to the point where you don't understand anything that's happening. Somehow Palpatine returned. So fuck those movies. 8's kind of cool, I guess.
Supreme Snoke though, I do admire that, again, Andy Serkis made his appearance doing the animation for him, or his movements.
He had potential, but
then you saw him in person as a regular human in Andor.
Snoke?
The one who played,
Oh, Andy Serkis, yes.
Andy Serkis. Yeah, not Snoke.
I was gonna say, I
was like, wait, what?
I know my attention span is not amazing, but I'm pretty sure I didn't see Snoke in Andor.
No. The actor who played Snoke.
Yeah, Andy Serkis is fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot of like side stories that have spawned since then, since the sequels. So the Star Wars train keeps churning. I don't know if we want to start with like Rogue One or something like that, because Rogue One was the first one that came out, right?
I think it was the first movie that came out after.
Yeah,
it came out after Force Awakens.
Yeah, the first like side story, which I was very skeptical on that concept as well, because when you tell something's a side story, it's like, why would you watch something that's not as important as, you know, the actual movies? But I actually enjoyed Rogue One. It was kind of a neat little film.
I thought it was really good because it showed a different perspective on the whole conflict. trying to grab the plans for the Death Star.
Yeah.
And with the characters themselves, now that we mentioned Andor and the other characters, I thought it was like refreshing to see something new that isn't tied directly into the Skywalker saga and their characters.
Yeah, I feel like if you're gonna like kind of rehash old material, you should look at it from another perspective, like you said, which is why Rogue One kind of worked for me. And I know a big complaint about it is that these characters are not really memorable, or like you can't really attach yourself to them. But I guess in my mind that's somewhat of the point. It's kind of showing you like kind of more of the nameless people in the rebellion that kind of built the staircase in which Luke Skywalker climbed to finally topple the Empire.
I think the final scene from that film was probably one of the best, where they kind of blended right into A New Hope, right?
Oh,
and you saw the terror that came from Darth Vader as he boarded that ship.
Yeah, even everyone getting nuked kind of worked for me, but I think
Yeah.
Anna, like, didn't you have an issue with it?
I think I was like, what is the point of making it feel like it's a love thing when it doesn't need to be? I'm so nitpicky with romances in any like sort of media, I feel like. So in this particular one, there was like what felt like it was a romance going on between two of the characters. And then at the end, it's just kind of like they pretty much die together, right? But like, they didn't like die together in a way where it's like to complete the romance
No
where
kiss.
or anything. No, they just kind of like held each other, whatever it was. I just, and then I was just like,
Why you make
Can
it
I
look
watch-
like they were in like a middle school dance, like they're holding
I-
each other like from this distance?
leave room for Jesus.
Yeah,
But,
just
like-
you, me, and Jesus are going out together.
But like it was I think for me I was just kind of like, either you're gonna go all the way or you're just not gonna even do it at all. Like why even like try to get me invested in this movie with like a romance thing happening when it's not even gonna feel completed, you know? So
Mhm.
that's like the biggest bone I really have to pick about it. But I do agree with the idea, like there's no point of you getting attached to these characters who are just like another cog in a wheel for the rebellion kind of thing. Even though they are a very important cog, it's like self-sacrifice for the greater good of things. People who don't like post about like their good deeds that they do for the day, it's kind of like makes me think of that, like people who like scream to the world like, hey, I did this today, like I gave like money
Hey,
to a
I
homeless
found
person.
the Death Star planned.
Yeah, like people who do things like that, I feel like are just like attention seeking. But the whole point of this is not like about attention seeking. It's about like literally the greater good for like the entire galaxy. But honestly, the only reason why I was really interested in Rogue One was the fact that Donnie Yen was in it.
Donnie Yen was like probably my favorite of the characters. He was literally like a monk archetype.
Yeah, it was a different type of character in this whole universe that you've never seen before. So there is a type of character like him, and that's like very unique and new. And like on top of that, he was blind.
He was blind. He was done.
And he trusted the Force.
Yeah, he was a devout follower of the Force, despite not really being able to utilize it.
Yeah. So it's just like that was such a unique character, because everyone else has like a very thief like character archetype
Yeah,
type of thing, like one of those type of things, you know.
yeah, like
But
a rogue.
Pretty
Oh,
much.
Rogue One. Hey, hey.
For a movie, it did its job in terms of like what its is in this universe.
This is kind of what side stories like should be, like singing the stories of the unsung hero.
It's just, again, like I said, it was refreshing to see something different from other films. They reintroduced the Forrest Whitaker's character, the
Oh my god. Save the rebellion!
Oh my god.
Save the dream!
because he plays in his character also plays a part in the other mediums too, like in the video games that I played. So
Oh.
when I saw him there, it was like, okay,
He's
they're
real.
really more expanding now the whole universe with other characters and introducing new ones.
That was cool. As much as I want them to do something completely new, like Rogue One was cool.
I mean, did you like Mando?
I did like Mando. I only watched seasons 1 to 2 because I think there was a large gap between 2 and 3, and I just kind of like
There was.
got interested in other things. So I haven't like watched that yet, but season 1 to 2 actually, it did provide, even though it was relatively close to the time period, like it was right after the fall of the Empire. Was it before the sequels chronologically? Yeah, it would have to be, right?
It's supposed to be right after the original trilogy.
Yeah, so it had to have been like, yeah,
because
before.
they had to connect with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Right. And the way it was told kind of as like both like a Western gunslinger as well as kind of unforeseen father. It was a very fun combo that was like a perfect storm of things. Like it had talented writing and producing staff with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. It had Pedro Pascal like right before he blew up in popularity. It had a cute little baby Yoda that everyone loved. And yeah, every episode was like really well made, and like the story was compelling. Like Mando was interesting, obviously Grogu was very interesting, and yeah, I really liked Mando.
I think like what made it good was that it could be a standalone series.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it did not need the movies to really tell its story, pretty much.
Yeah, the setting is like inherent. Like you can pick up just from being in Mando's shoes, like what must have happened.
Right, and I think that's like what you were saying, how this is what makes a good side story. Pretty much, you can contribute to like the original timeline, but you can still stand alone otherwise. Mando, I think like you touched upon everything I did like about it. It had like a father figure, and then like I love that whole like father-child combo.
Strangely good dynamic.
It's a very good dynamic. Pull on my heartstrings. And then like, you know, the Western type of gunslinger thing that you mentioned. I love a good Western. It's been a long time since like a good Western movie or like just a good Western type of thing.
Yeah.
Show movie has been produced too. Like I feel like this Western genre is like a dead genre at this point because there's not much of people producing it.
It did kind of feel like a full circle because like Star Wars was slightly inspired by like Westerns.
Right.
Yeah, like we've been without Westerns for so long that making Star Wars into a Western kind of made it fresh again.
Yeah, and I think like they had like a very good cast of actors and actresses to come on too, which is like in season 1 especially, they had like a pretty good like set of like guest characters come on that were like, you know, these are big names, these aren't like small name people. But like I do think like what made it very special is how they like created Grogu in particular, because Grogu is a robot, like, and they had to like, you know, remotely control like a lot of his gestures and movements. And I thought that was like the most intriguing thing ever, because it was just like, wow, they created a whole freaking robot to just like do, like, we've come to this point where we're relying on robots to do these things now.
Yeah.
Not CGI, but a damn robot.
I think that's why it kind of sold him as like a child type figure, because his movements were very like simple, because he's like a, you know, he's a robot with only so many joints. I think like a CGI Grogu would not have worked very well because he'd be too fluid, you know? Because like babies like almost act without any clear plan. Like they just start doing stuff and then they see how it turns out, and that's kind of how Grogu feels sometimes.
I do look at Grogu and like how he like expresses himself, and I'm like, he reminds me of like a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, that's why I was.
Yeah, he does like the head tilts and like the
little head tilt, the little ear thing,
the
and
ears.
I'm like, I'm sold. You got me.
Yeah, it was really good. But you said this is the good stuff. Is there any bad stuff?
I do feel like there's some moments in the series where it felt like a little bit dragged, but like it wasn't like overwhelmingly dragged. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like overwhelmingly feeling like I was bored. Not like Andor.
I have a question for both of you relating to Mandalorian on that.
Oh, please.
Okay.
What did you guys think about the reintroduction of Luke Skywalker into the series?
I was okay with it.
It was just a small part of it, and I felt like it was meant to be there. You know what I mean? It didn't feel out of place because Grogu had to like
learn his origins.
Yeah, the whole purpose of him going on this journey was to like go back to where he came from And where did he come from? Like, he came from people who can do the Force, and I felt like it was purposeful. It wasn't there as like a gimmick or anything like that. It was interesting how they CGI the whole thing though, but I didn't hate it.
Yeah, when I first like watched it, I almost felt like the ending of season 2 was like the completion of the story, because that's kind of was the overarching thing, was trying to find Grogu a home, and that was accomplished. So even though there was still stuff for Mando to do with like Mandalore and everything, the main objective was him trying to find where Grogu belongs, and he did that. So to me, like season 1 and 2 felt like a very complete story.
Well, then you might not want to watch season 3 then.
I mean, yeah, I already know. Like that's why I was surprised. I'm like, I don't know what they're gonna do with season 3 other than the Mandalore plot, but then I guess they're like, come on back, brother. We're going on more adventures.
Do you want me to tell you what they're planning to do with the storyline?
Sure. I mean, I know Grogu comes back.
Well, I'm not gonna reveal about season 3, but basically after the end of season 3, there's gonna be a film for the Mandalorian and Grogu. And it's going to incorporate other characters from this expanded universe, the Dave Filoniverse.
The Dave Filoniverse? Like Boba Fett?
Is that what we're calling it now?
Sounds like a pizzeria.
I just made that up, right? I just made it up right now.
That's pretty good.
Oh my god.
That's what we're going to call this episode, the Dave Filoniverse.
Trademark it.
Because, okay, since I'm talking about Dave Filoni, like, did you know where he started from?
He did, I think he did the Clone Wars, right?
Before that. What was he on? Well, what did he work before that?
Seinfeld.
No,
okay. I was like, there's a chance.
He worked on the first season of Avatar.
Oh.
Then George Lucas saw him, and when he watched the first season, he saw the project that he did and all the scenes that he was working on, and he told him, hey, you want to work for me? And he let him join for Lucasfilms for a bit. And then that's how he created the Clone Wars.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is it all comes from being Aang, the last airbender who had to save the world.
He saved the Filoniverse.
But yeah, Dave Filoni's like vision has been mostly like there is some fan service with Mandalorian and Boba Fett and all these other projects, but he's been doing a really good job lately. I mean, I can't wait to see what they're gonna do with this film, that he's gonna incorporate the other characters, like Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan, yeah, she was cool. How was season 3? Like, I don't know if Anna watched it, but...
Yeah,
She did.
Okay, how did you guys feel about it? Because I can't really weigh in.
It kind of felt like there was not enough of a mission into the storyline, because like what you said at the end of season 2, like, you know, finding a place on its own. It's kind of like it's like the Mandalorian was just trying to find a purpose for himself again.
I see.
That's how it kind of felt for me.
Did it like kind of accomplish that?
In the end, I would kind of say, but it's more of like a pause.
I felt like this is like a good potential like building season for the following season. Like it's like a setting, like you mentioned in season 1, there was like a purpose of what he had to do, but then in this season in particular, now that he's accomplished his original goal and he's just trying to find his original clan again and just trying to find a place to fit in. And I think like this is a good building season in that sense, where like he is just like feeling things out and trying to figure himself out. And I think like next, like moving forward, the movie, it will actually have a direction related, hopefully have a direction relating to it, is like the intended goal of things.
It just wasn't as strong enough as like the first 2 seasons, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, but you think it will pay off with like the movie?
I'm hoping it
I'm
does.
hoping. I'm really hoping, because there are certain things that happen in the second season, like with Bo-Katan. So she's gonna be a big part of it in this movie, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean Bo-Katan's super cool, but
with Boba Fett, I don't.
Yeah,
I know
what's up
that
with
series
show?
that show did not do as well. Although there were some parts of it I felt it was strong enough to show that Boba Fett kind of redeemed himself to be his own, make his own way of life. But it just wasn't as high enough as like what the Mandalorian is doing.
I just was never really interested in it because I never really understand Boba Fett. I guess I do get him, but I don't get why people care about him, because I know, like, in the original he was just like a guy who had cool armor.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's carried him this far.
I think in this one it's kind of more of like he's showing that he can make his own choices now and that he can make his own decisions, because as a bounty hunter at that time, he was just working for someone, you know, making money and taking on these bounties for himself. But after he got swallowed up, it kind of like changed his life.
One of those life-changing experiences.
Exactly.
Did you see that show, Anna?
I watched it and I was like, it was like cool and like it was more so cool with like a lot of the actions that happen and behind it, but like in terms of plot wise, it was not the strongest. That was it. That's all I got for you.
All right. Before we get into the Andor, which we just watched, the only other show I think we're missing is Obi-Wan, right?
Oh yes, Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan was just a repeat. It's a recap. It's a recap movie, all right? Don't try to defend it for what it is. It's a recap movie.
I wasn't gonna defend it. I didn't care.
Mark was gonna defend it.
Are you gonna defend it, Mark?
I only liked one episode where they really showed Ahsoka Tano's perspective, because you know she looked up to Anakin during the Clone Wars during that time. So for her to make peace with Anakin, it's really tough. So there was one episode where they were just like going through that portal that's in Rebels. It's hard to explain unless you see the episode, like if you've seen Rebels, but basically it's kind of trying to give a closure for Ahsoka in a sense, because again she felt betrayed after being mentored by him and then going to the dark side. So there was a special moment in one of the episodes, but other than that it was pretty dry.
It was a recap.
I didn't make it that far. Like after the second scene of Princess Leia evading the police, I was kind of over it.
I don't know what was really the purpose for that. I guess just introduce her, but like she's just a kid at that time,
yeah,
right?
She has baby legs.
What else can she do? Like, are they trying to show that she's a strong person that she became to be? But it's so early in her life that I don't think it can really matter as much in that time.
It didn't matter at all.
And like her interactions with Obi-Wan felt kind of awkward.
Oh yeah.
Right?
So my feeling at the time was they were trying to kind of recapture kind of the Mando Grogu thing, where like pair like gruff adult character with child, but then didn't really work this time, huh? Shame, because I was hoping Obi-Wan would be like the good one.
Yeah, and then that one Sith Lord, the Sith person, I forgot what they're called, but she got a lot of hate. I don't know if you guys remember.
For what reason?
Her acting and the way that she performed on the show.
She was fine. I feel like this is just thinly veiled misogyny happening over and over.
Exactly, that's what I thought. I felt like it's so unnecessary.
Yeah, Star Wars fans are fucking vile sometimes. Everyone has at least 3 movies they like already. Like, they need to chill. They have enough.
Alright, enough about that one. I think my favorite thing that actually came out of the entire Star Wars universe is when they did a collaboration with different studios, like animation studios.
For what?
It's a bunch of episodes. They're in the Star Wars universe, but they're their own unique stories.
You're talking about Visions.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't see that actually. I completely forgot about that.
Because
I adore
it's an anime.
No, it's not just anime, but like, I mean, yeah, it's like some of them are made by like Japanese animation studios, like Trigger, but like I think there was like other studios too. It was not just Japanese animation studios. I think there was like a French one. From what
French
I remember.
animation is great.
Yeah, but like the point is, we keep talking about if it's gonna be a story, then it should be a story that has not been told before. And I felt like Vision was that. It's like mini stories, but like mini stories of like very different and unique characters.
Why Disney Plus not recommending this to me?
They
recommend Andor to me every fucking day of my life, but never Visions.
I don't. Is it on Disney Plus? I don't.
It's
remember.
gotta be.
No, it's Disney Plus.
I only remember it from like the announcement they did like way back of all the Star Wars projects they were gonna do, but I haven't heard of it since.
Side note, I haven't watched the second season of that yet.
There's 2 seasons?
Yeah.
Oh my god. People are keeping this from me.
I agree with Anna on this point. I like the individual storytelling. It's kind of different from what they had before, and each episode has a different animation that they do, right?
I think there was 2 that was Trigger. I feel like they gave these like studios free reign to animate in their art style, see the Star Wars universe, and I like thought that was like such a genius thing to do, to allow other studios to play with their like work. It's like it's like the idea of how art is. It's like art is like, you can have one person make one thing, but then when you have someone make something else, it's like a whole different like point of view about things. And I think that's what makes it like more beautiful and more like 3D. And I don't know how else to explain it, but like it feels more like lively in terms of their universe that way, because they gave it more substance and value.
And it's kind of like, even though it's only 20 minutes, you kind of already captured what the storyline is for each episode.
Yeah. 2 of them were studio triggers in season 1, and then Production IG was also another Japanese studio that did episode 5. But like, yeah, like it's just a bunch of different studios, not necessarily have to be Japanese studios, but like different ones. And I felt like they did such a really good job in like doing their own story of what they want to portray in the Star Wars verse.
You should add it to your list, Mike.
I will. Yeah, I wish I knew about that, because that's like exactly what I want. I thought, since I didn't know about Visions, I thought you were going to say Andor was your favorite thing to come out of this, and I was going to be shocked.
Shut up. We both know that I was like struggle busing to get through Andor to begin with.
Yeah, for the first time ever, I had to like prod Anna to watch something instead of the other way around.
I was like, you know what? You want to just watch Free Rent? Like,
Yeah,
I don't mind watching Free Rent for like the second time. Like, let's just do it.
Yeah, you're like, you want to watch Physical 100 or something?
I was like avoiding it so hard. I feel like I am justified as to why I was avoiding it so hard. Like, I feel like you can agree with me on it.
Oh yeah. I definitely did not like it as much as probably a lot of other people did. Yeah, it wasn't spectacular to me. It had some standout moments, but I think maybe if it was condensed, it would have helped it a lot more. Like if it was 8 to 10 episodes, I think the better moments would have shined more instead of it kind of feeling like it was dragging for the first 6 episodes and then kind of picking up in the 12th. Now it's kind of alluding to a second season and like more stories. I guess if I knew beforehand, it would have helped. Because in the early episodes, I remember thinking and commenting to Anna, just saying, there are so many people being introduced to me right now, and I don't know why. Like, what is the big dude who works at the ship? Like, what is his purpose? Just like, what about Tim? Remember Tim?
Dad, why do you keep talking about him?
Because his name is Tim, and it's funny. They're in fucking Spaceland, and they have a dude named Tim.
It's definitely a very slow burn. I think the later episodes do become more impactful, especially the prison episodes.
Yeah.
Because it kind of showed more of like the realistic situation, like that we can compare it like nowadays, right? Like knowing your fate, that being in that prison is not, there's just no future for yourself. The only way really is just you gotta break out of the jail. Rebel. And I think for Andor, towards the end, he kind of had more realization of the real world and what the real threat of the Empire is.
Yeah, like there's things that like impact everyone's life, not just his life, that he probably either overlooked or took for granted, that he's definitely has a new perspective on things after that, which is like good. Like that was good character arc. But the first like 4 episodes, I could probably tell you 3 things that happened. I know it's like slow burn is definitely a word for it, but another word is just kind of lack of direction almost. Because there was like, a lot of plot points that happened that I was kind of like, why did they even bother with that? Like, I guess an example would be like the little robot that he has with the stutter. But I guess that's something that could pay off in season 2. But I'm like, why are they treating, like, why is this robot having like a Clockwork Orange type like psychotic breakdown? But then nothing happens because of it. Like, what is happening with this fucking robot?
I kind of agree. Like, I mean, you know how much I complained about it when we were watching it and how I was falling asleep because it was so boring to me.
For like the first time ever, me and Anna had like 10-minute silences. Like, how crazy is that?
Usually there's a comment between here and there, right?
Yeah, there's always like commentary between us when we watch stuff, and that's why
I was just kind of like if she was awake.
Yeah, I was like falling asleep because it's just like it was just not of interest to me. But like I think my biggest thing was that like it just felt very dragged. Like it felt like a lot of it could have been like slimmed down in terms of episode wise, or maybe like even combine episodes together. Like it didn't feel like it needed to be 12 episodes long to get to the point as to like what they were trying to convey. I think that's why I was like so annoyed.
I think they should have started like right before the prison, like maybe like him in like the sand
When he
planet.
got arrested? When he got arrested?
Yeah, like I think that should have been the starting point.
That would have worked for me. And then like just throw in a little bit background as to why his mom matters to him so much. Cause
yeah, like restructure
like,
it a little bit.
Because honestly, him looking for his sister like it brought nothing. Like the fact that this whole time I thought he was gonna find his sister and nothing came of it. What the fuck did we spend the entire like beginning episodes for? Like I was so annoyed by it.
Yeah.
But like I'm just saying, like, can you please not torture me with like your boring stories?
Well, I think that's why, like, the fact that it has, maybe it was like planned as a multi-season show from the get-go, because like the whole him being like maybe the last survivor of his people not really paid off at all yet. Same thing with like him looking for his sister. So I imagine if it was planned out to be like a long continuity, that would be things that they look at later, and they were just kind of setting it up there.
Yeah, but like they wasted so much time.
They did spend they spent like 3 or 4 flashbacks on him as a little kid, which could have just been one. Like maybe even like the intro of the show, just have that be the first scene.
I remember how I said that was the other thing that was like so annoying to me, how they kept jumping around in terms of like stories and stuff like that. Like they kept not just flashbacks, but they kept jumping between different characters' stories, like their different paths
and all this and this and this.
And it was so, because it was so annoying because I was like, bro, like. I barely just got to know what the fuck is happening here. You're jumping somewhere else, which is why I said episode 10 was probably my favorite out of all of them, because it was like the longest time we spent with like one like setting and trying to get through it. We have this one problem and this is how it's gonna get solved, and that's all I wanted. Like it's just a freaking coherent story to like from the beginning to like the end of it. Like that's it. And then we got gay baited at some point, and then like
you gotta like give a little context for that.
Yeah,
like,
go ahead.
Like there was like 2 female characters that we were like, oh, is this a love interest? Oh, is this gonna
Which sucks because I thought one of them was the love interest for me, but alas, I've been gay baited once again.
But like nothing came out fruition of it. You know what I mean? It's like that. And then I think the other thing that was like really annoying was me and Mike were talking about how like the freaking like laser blaster gun thingy doesn't work.
That really bothered you.
It doesn't work again.
Blasters don't work on Andor.
Andor got shot. He was fine, but Tim gets shot. He's dead.
Yeah, Tim dies. Insta die. Tim can't take a bullet for shit. Andor though, fucking deflects that shit.
What is the rules here? Like, do you set like is the side of the blaster like set like there's a gauge as to like
it was on the main character setting. The Tim setting's all the way up.
Okay, what did you guys think of the deputy inspector character?
Which one is that? Is that
Karn?
Is that the dude with his mom?
The guy, yes, the one.
I thought he was going to be interesting, but then he just turned out to be like an incel.
He started off like as like the beginning, right? It was like an interesting like storyline, like oh, he's like trying to go up the chain, trying to become this like better officer,
ambitious, like to the point of obsessive.
He was like a very straight shooter type of thing. He like he defined what justice is in his head, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I thought he was gonna be such a good counterpart to Cass, and nothing came out of that either.
Nah, then he just turned into a weird simp. He's just like, hey, I know that you work from 10 to 12 in this building, so I've been waiting for you every day. I like how you give justice to the. I'm just like, shut, dude.
I forgot about that.
He's such a creep now, and he lives with his weird mom, and it's just like, I don't know what the hell they're doing with that character.
Alright, what about the evil one, Miro?
Is that the blonde woman?
Yeah, the blonde one.
I think she was cool. Like, she did her role pretty well. Well, she's not cool. Like, I wouldn't hang out with her, but she was a well-done character.
Yeah, I agree to that too. Like, if you're gonna be some evil person, you be that evil person. You fit your character mold, okay?
Yeah, it almost felt like she and Karn should have just been one character.
I think it will depend on season 2, maybe.
It definitely will depend.
Right?
I think a lot on this season will depend on future seasons.
Yeah.
If judging this season on its own, like Karn's character was literally just wasted. Again, like it was Anna's big point was you kept changing perspective. One of those perspectives was him eating cereal with his mother, like for 5 scenes. It's just like why does this matter? And it's not paid off in this season, so.
Yeah, and why is it called Andor?
I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Mark, do you know?
Are you talking? Wait, are you legit asking why it's called Andor?
Yeah.
Because of Cassian?
Why is his last name Andor?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh my god.
I put that on the document as a troll, and did you actually not know, or are you fucking with
Did you
us?
really not know?
I really didn't know.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Okay.
I put that on as like a sarcastic thing. We do our research here. Yeah, his name is Cassian Andor.
Whoops.
Now you know.
Oopsie doopsie.
He went from Andor to what's that other name that he
Clem.
was using?
Clem was one of his names. And
Oh, Clem, yeah,
in
yeah.
the prison he was Keef.
And then there's Keef, but they spell it like K-E-F, and I was like,
You know
that
what?
could be Keef.
You wanna know a fun fact? Is my name was almost Keith.
You don't look like a Keef.
No one should look like a Keith. I would have been like Tim, and I would have been like just someone would kill me instantly.
Episode 10 was my favorite because of the prison scene in particular, but it was also because like there was so much emotion riding in that particular segment of plot because of the whole escape and like the whole
reality.
feeling. Yeah, the whole feeling of like helplessness is like so real, and having this realization is either like do or die. That was like very well portrayed in that. And then like even all the way up to the very end when everyone is just jumping off into like the waters and not knowing where they will end up, it was just kind of like that felt very surreal in a sense. Like it could be brought into like a metaphor in life or somehow,
for sure.
some way, shape, or form, right? And then you have like the main guy.
You know?
Yeah, and
The irony.
he can't swim. It was just like,
Yeah.
He did all this and he can't swim.
I was like, bro, I feel you.
Oh
I
yeah. You'd have to stay in prison, Anna. Sorry.
Did I stay in prison?
So you're not gonna jump Anna?
If I can ride on somebody, sure.
What are they, like a Pokemon?
Surf.
Yeah, you surf.
But like, yeah, everyone else in that whole like scene was jumping off because they saw what freedom is and can attain it. But he realized that freedom is just unobtainable.
Yeah.
It was just like that's that like very subtle difference between like the realization of stuff, and I was like, this here is all I ever wanted out of this damn show, and then only gave it to me in episode 10.
Yeah.
And then everything else just
Yeah, I mean, compare it to when they like attacked the treasury or whatever, like that whole like operation they planned like 4 episodes for, and then there was essentially no emotional stakes to it. Like I think 3 people died, and like nobody cared.
Yep.
And then
Exactly.
that one dude from the show The Bear is like, "Hey, you want to steal all this shit?" And Cassian is like, "Nah, not really." And then he fucking kills him. It's like, all right, that's a cool little whatever.
I kept telling Mike, I was like, I know this guy. I've seen this guy before. Where have I seen him before? And then
I was gonna ask you after you finished, like, oh, don't you recognize one of these characters?
It took me a whole episode. It took me a whole
while.
episode to realize where he was from.
I was about to say, all right, there's cousin.
And I was telling Mike too. I was like, what is that thing they say, brother? And then I realized it was cousin. But anyways, why do you like Andor, Mark? story? Because you're the one who told us to watch it.
I think it's just more of a mature theme to it. Because
Okay.
like all these other Star Wars films, right? Like you're used to seeing just like Jedi's fighting each other, and then about the Jedi and Sith. Like none of that was in this. This is just plainly like being a citizen of a planet, being overtaken by the Empire and trying to be rebellious, which can be like symbolic to like today because there are still countries that are being like that. They're trying to fight their freedom.
Yeah.
And like
still
the
presence like
emotion,
that too.
like the emotion you felt, especially when Mira, the mother, when she died and she made that speech, I was like, wow. Like I feel like these characters are more authentic and more realistic than some of the others Star Wars like projects.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
you would
really
like
why I
that
really
last
did.
episode, by the way. Like, it is very good at creating an atmosphere.
Okay, fine, I'll finish it.
Good.
Like, I literally got through 10 minutes and I had to go do something and never came back to it.
Finish the story.
And then they'll prep you for season 2.
Are they planning a Well, I know they're planning it, but like, is there
Yeah.
a release date on the horizon?
Not yet.
Wait, can I say one more thing about Andor?
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is about like the character of Cassian Andor. I don't believe that he existed before the show started. You know what I mean? Like, I believe like he was born like the moment the camera started running. Like, he did not seem like a real character who had a life before this. I don't know if it was like the acting or the directing or writing or what, but like I was like, this is not a real person. He's like, hey, remember that like time I stole and like was so drunk I had to throw up for 3 days? You remember that? And I'm like, bro, that didn't happen. I don't believe you.
That might be more on the writing. But I see what you mean. Like it's like there's no real introduction to the character.
Yeah,
You just
like
went straight into it.
I didn't believe he existed. I believe the current version of Andor that like after the prison exists because I got to see it. That's all.
Before we get to the games, did you guys see Ahsoka at all or no?
I didn't know it was out yet.
I keep forgetting.
When did it come out?
Came out sometime last year.
Oh, really? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought that was upcoming still. So, okay, so my answer is no. Tell us about it.
Well, the only thing I'll say, like, because it's really hard to get into that show without watching Rebels and Clone Wars.
Okay, that's good to know.
Because it's really on Ahsoka, and if you don't really know like her storyline as much, it doesn't feel as much impactful. So like, I'm just telling you right now, like that's really more of a fan service to those who watch the animated series. I enjoyed it, but I don't know how much depth it will go into in the later seasons. I think it's going to lead into the Mandalorian film. Because Ahsoka did make an appearance there first in the live-action Filoniverse.
Is the film gonna be like the finale of the Filoniverse?
I don't know. I'm just hearing different things here and there, but supposedly that's where like all these characters are all going to meet, probably for some big battle, probably.
They're gonna beat
Big,
Thanos.
one big battle.
They're gonna beat
Like, one
Thanos.
big-
I mean, there's like a resurgence of like the Empire, right?
There's always a resurgence of the damn Empire.
Yeah.
And someone's got to fight them.
Wow. What a cool, compelling new story.
I don't know. Again, that's all speculation, but I think that's where it's going to lead into. And again, unless you've watched those two animated series, it's really hard to find yourself into those characters. But if you did, I think you would enjoy that show because of seeing some of those characters returning and the character storyline that they portrayed on it. I still liked it overall. I'm just hoping that they add more depth into Ahsoka's character now that you've seen her become more mature after the Clone Wars. We'll just have to kind of see from there.
Sorry, but I thought you played the game.
What?
I thought you played the Star Wars game.
So first of all,
There's
Anna,
multiple games.
First of all, Anna, they've been coming out with Star Wars games since the original Star Wars came out.
Yeah,
There's a lot of Star Wars games.
There's a lot.
I think the
Let's
two,
pick someone.
the two series that like have the most continuity are I think like the I forget
Fallen
what
Order?
it's well Fallen Order as well, but before that there was like the guy's name is like Star Killer or something.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about?
that's from like the early Xbox 360 days.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's called something like The Force Awakens or something, but not that because that's the movie.
This is where I had to like look back because I haven't played that in a long time.
I never played that, but I know that's another
Force-
one. That,
The Force Unleashed.
The Force Unleashed. Yeah,
Yeah.
like those are the two series that had the most like actual story continuity impact, right?
Yes. Force Unleashed was like because he kind of was like on the dark side of things, and he was very powerful. That one I didn't, because I didn't really play it until later. So, but it did have some continuity into the series. But in terms of like video games overall, like the later ones that were really good was like Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor with the redhead character.
What's his name? Like Cal?
Cal.
Is it just Cal, or does he have another name?
This is where I had to look up because again, it's been a while.
Well, everyone calls him Cal, right?
How?
Cal,
C-A-L.
C-A-L. Cal.
Cal Kestis.
Cal. Oh, is it really? I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that.
Yeah, the actor Cameron Monaghan. He was in the Gotham series.
Yeah, it was the Joker, baby.
So that storyline is really good too because it talks about the events after the Jedi had fallen, and he was like one of the surviving Jedi. So he had to like hide his powers, and eventually he gets into this conflict again, which we also saw Saul Guerrero also in this video game. That's why I mentioned it
remember
before.
that. Yeah, I played a bit of the first game and it was really cool, but it was definitely like a game you had to commit to.
Yeah, it kind of had like that Dark Souls mechanics because like one wrong move, you're like, that's it. And a lot of like parkour and wall riding and things like that.
And ponchos.
So the mechanics and ponchos. Oh yeah, the ponchos is what trademark for his character. Plot-wise, is really really good, especially in the second one.
Anna, you look confused.
Is this like what you feel like when I talk about like Breath of the Wild and like Tears of the Kingdom? Like all just confused about like what the
Yes.
heck is this poop thing that you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, no, if you didn't play Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor, there's a lot of shit that happens and you're just like, what the fuck? Yeah, you're fighting like on a whole bunch of different planets and you get to kind of like decide and traverse them, which is cool.
So it
And-
sounds like it was pretty good games that were created from this.
So
Oh, yeah.
the funny thing is with Star Wars video games, in history it hasn't been really good. Like Lucas had his own video game company, but those games back then, a lot of them didn't do well.
They were hit or miss. They had a couple of gems in there.
Yeah, probably the most reviewed and most best video game franchise would probably be like the Knights of the Old Republic and
that's
Battlefield.
I was
Right.
Battlefront.
Battlefront.
Yeah, Rogue Squadron as well. I forgot
Rogue
about
Squadron.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Because that was like the whole like, oh, you can create your own Jedi and have your own storyline and you know,
Yeah, you can do anything.
you can do whatever.
I'm glad they're remaking it because I tried to play those like recently, and
I know.
unplayable.
I tried it too. I was like, how did I play this back then?
Completely unplayable.
But yeah, I can't wait for the remake. I think they were delayed for a bit. I don't know when they're gonna release it.
fine.
So.
Release it when it's done.
That's how it always should be though.
If only that were true. The shareholders need money now, though. You forget that.
Monies.
You scoff at the shareholders.
I do.
Damn, look at Mon Mothma over here.
But yeah, I think hopefully in the future they'll have more good storylines that they did with the Fallen Order because they tell a whole new story, you know, about trying to be a Jedi and trying to find out what's going on with the Jedis themselves because that was the fall, right? This is like after Revenge of the Sith. So, and in the second one, he actually uses Sith powers too. So he's kind of like in between, which they do exist in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
So I hope they do more into that. I think the next game that's gonna come out is called Outlaws, and it's more of like an open world game by Ubisoft.
Oh,
Ooh.
interesting.
But Ubisoft's reputation sometimes for some people hasn't been the
Yeah,
best.
It's a hit or miss.
But I love open world games, so I'm probably gonna play it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have potential to make it good, but Ubisoft has as much potential to make it bad, so we'll see. Because, you know, they have shareholders.
It's always the damn shareholders.
Oh, no one thinks about them. You always got to think about the shareholders.
I don't know if it's just if it's fake or not, but supposedly there was gonna be like a paywall in the game
Oh.
for some things.
Oh, good.
And you know how people are.
Love
They don't like hearing that. So we'll see what happens.
Hopefully, the future of Star Wars is bright. What's the next stuff? Like, so there's, almost said Baby and Grogu, Mandalorian and Grogu, right? In terms of like movie, is there any other movies on the horizon?
I don't think there is.
Nothing.
Supposedly there's gonna be another trilogy,
Stop it.
but I'm being honest right now.
Well, that's not the same
There's
trilogy
al-
they were gonna give to the Game of Thrones people, right?
No, I think that was something different.
Yeah,
But
that's over. Yeah.
all I heard so far is that they're not gonna continue the Skywalker Saga. Like it's
Oh
gonna
my
be
god!
with it's like
Praise the Force.
nothing. Praise the Force. Hopefully it'll be good. But we
Yeah.
don't know. We don't have a timeline yet for that one.
Yeah.
But they are planning another trilogy.
All right, yeah, take their time to develop it. Whoever, I don't know if they have a really good talent pool outside of like Dave Filoni.
If it's Dave Filoni, I'll be happy.
The Filoni trilogy. Yeah. What about shows? Well, I guess there's additional seasons to whatever they have, maybe. Andor season 2.
Yeah.
Andor season 2, probably more visions. Oh, forgot about the Bad Batch. That was from the Clone Wars.
Oh yeah.
It's that series has been really good because it's like it plays off like what its name like the name says, they're a bad batch of the clones. So they're their own team. And throughout the series they're also trying to fight back against the Empire, but now that this is like the final season that I'm watching, they now find out that certain clones have also defected under the Empire too. So you're like kind of fighting against your own brothers.
Oh no.
So there's a lot of identity crisis that's going on right now in the show. But it's really good.
Cool. Yeah, another show that Disney Plus does not recommend to me. They're just like, fucking watch Andor, you piece of shit.
Does it always come up on your recommended? That's why
Always.
you.
Always. No, actually, it was Anna's idea to watch Andor for this. I think because you told her to.
Probably.
So it was the chain of command.
Well, I don't recommend those animated series because I feel like you would have to watch a little bit of the Clone Wars to
Right.
understand.
Okay, so there's more of like a barrier to entry.
Because there's some characters that does continue on from Clone Wars, so that's why I never really recommended it.
Oh, I just remembered that we forgot about the Han Solo movie. But like, who cares? Whatever.
Honestly, yeah.
Whomst cares?
Like, I didn't feel like that movie did anything for me in terms of like, oh, maybe it had Donald. Like, okay, the fact that it had Donald Glover, like, okay,
Young Lando, right?
yeah,
But why
but
do he wanted to fuck a robot though. I don't know if that was in Lando's original character, but
He was a playboy, so I'm not surprised.
yeah, I guess space playboys are built a little different. It's a good point. Yeah.
but overall, it was a meh movie.
I remember there was a train on it.
I don't remember a train.
Yeah, it was like a snow train, because I remember it was like, hey, it's like Snowpiercer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's where my brain goes to. I'm like, oh, look, it's a train.
Yeah, I don't think it did as strong of an influence on Han Solo's character.
No.
It's kind of like with Andor, like the beginning, it's like not too much of a connection, I think, right? Or if it's
Yeah.
the flow of the story doesn't really help.
Part of Han Solo's charm is that we don't know that much about him. He's mysterious.
Mhm.
And then he's like, you find out why he's called Han Solo. It's because of like a misunderstanding at the, like at like a border. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's dumb. Why even do this? Yeah, Star Wars. It's a very mixed batch series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but we're stuck with it. We're already too deep.
I know.
We're 20 years in the making.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah, Mark's happy. In his little, what kind of, is that an X-wing or is that like, what kind of cockpit is that?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like the squadron.
Oh.
You know, the squadron leader. So there's
Yeah.
R2. It's supposed to be R2 right here.
Oh, okay, I see him. There's the boy.
So I'm just getting ready to shoot at the Death Star.
Hell yeah. All right, we're gonna let Mark go shoot at the Death Star, and we're going to, I guess, be done. You make sure to turn off your targeting computer. Use the Force, Mark. That's gonna be it for us, guys. Happy 4th of July. May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th.
Feliz Navidad. Peace.